Welcome to The Growth Show with me as your host, Joe Camerato. I am an entrepreneur who created my company, National Business Capital, from literally $0 out of my spare bedroom to over $2 billion in business loans secured for entrepreneurs nationwide. Since 2007, I have seen just about every type of business. I provide money and help entrepreneurs access capital to scale fast, but I also know that it's possible for you as you scale to replace yourself, to build systems, processes, and great teams of people that can live on without you so you can actually enjoy your life and your company can still grow. I will not only tell you the peaks and valleys of my story, but I will also bring on world-class entrepreneurs to tell their stories and share their lessons on their growth journeys. Welcome to The Growth Show. Welcome to The Growth Show. With me as your host, Joe Camerato. As you know, my show is all about people growing and making it happen. And today I've got a special guest, Shanice Miller. And what's awesome about Shanice is her whole business is helping others grow by creating processes and systems in their business, which if you know me, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of processes and systems. Shanice Miller is the founder of TasklyGroup and an accomplished business productivity consultant specializing in project management. She helps clients ranging from small startups to multi-million-dollar businesses save hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Shanice. How you doing?
Thanks for having me on, Joe. I am doing awesome today, and I am so excited to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. I tell people all the time, entrepreneurs, people ask me questions. How do I grow my business? How do you have 100 employees? How do you do it? And I always say it just comes down to, one, having a great culture, but having the right processes and systems in place. And then obviously the right people to run those processes and systems. But, and I find myself, really like realizing this when I tell people like, all right, you need processes and systems. Like what the heck does that mean? And some people are like, okay, great, but wait, what process, what system, where do I buy this thing? So I thought it'd be great to have you on the show today because your whole business, the Taskly Group, is really like helping people build out the processes and systems that are needed in their business.
Yes, we are all about automating, delegating, and systematizing so that you can really do less in your business. Because, as you know, the more people you bring on, if you aren't doing those things, that's when you're becoming the chief bottleneck officer. Everything has to go through you, and it is becoming very overwhelming. But the more you delegate, the more you are able to release some of that control, hand off a lot of tasks to the other people to do them and actually trust and believe in their abilities to do them right. Then that's how you grow that really nice culture, and you're able to have that less stress, that enjoyable life, and that enjoyable business that you can pass down from generation to generation.
That's awesome. And I think too, like sometimes people overthink, processes and systems. And I also think too, entrepreneurs, they're really good at whatever it is that, whatever their business is. Like if they're a restaurant owner, they're a great cook. Usually,
Mhm.
if they're, if it's a mechanic shop, they have a great mechanic. If it's manufacturing, they get how to, manufacture things, but then they don't always think about like the whole rest of the business and all the pieces of the pie, from marketing to accounting to sales, and then
Yes.
to all the processes and systems that have to connect all that stuff. And I think for me, once that like clicked and I got that, I became like addicted to processes and systems, and it changed my whole business. Like I was able to scale fast, but like also in a controlled way where it didn't
Mhm.
feel like chaotic. And
Sounds
I
like you
think
did it the right way.
not initially. I made all the mistakes that you can imagine, and probably everything that you deal with when people come to you, because it
I
didn't
made all
just
those same mistakes too.
exactly. I mean, it took 5 to 7 years to like finally figure all that stuff out, and I went from not owning a business to owning a business. There's a lot to learn, and you just think I thought because I was great in sales that I'd automatically be great at owning and running a business, and I was
Yeah.
in for a rude awakening. So.
That's so correct. I had a client who was a dentist, and he told me one time, I went to school to become a dentist and not a business owner. And I think that speaks volumes, especially to a lot of big business owners that are out there. Is that you go to school, you're getting certifications, you're specializing in a certain area of your expertise, but not necessarily in marketing and business and sales. And that's why you need other people that you delegate to, so that they can come in and fill those shoes, so that you can focus in on that zone of genius you have in your strengths, instead of trying to grab and do everything all together and all at once. But it
Yeah,
does start out with you being that one man band to start
yeah,
your business
yeah,
off.
100%. And listen, in the beginning, it's kind of like, you got to do whatever it takes to get rock and roll. And it's not like most people don't have the luxury of rolling in with, a backing of millions and millions of dollars, and
Correct.
they've been there and done it before, and now it's all easy. Like if you haven't been there and done it, plus if you don't have a huge financial backing, like you got to do whatever it takes to get like revenues going, and you got to be the chief everything
Yeah.
officer to get your stuff done and get a business going. But then, yeah, you got to start, delegating it out. And even if you've been there and done it before, and even if you have a huge financial backing, you see all these tech companies that have done it, scaled, sold the business, they go and do it another thing, and they assume because they've just done it all before and they've got this big financial backing that they can skip all the business fundamental steps, which is, now I've got a new business, I've got to put all these processes and systems in place.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you've got to do the work and do this stuff. Um, but some of the processes and systems can be simple. It just can be saying, hey, when this call comes in, you just do these three things. Like it doesn't need to be
Yes.
like these elaborate, like, I think when you talk about processes and systems with people, they just think of this, they overthink that it's this big
Yes.
elaborate thing where it could be three bullet points on a Word doc of like, when this happens, you do this, then this, then this. Like that's
I
a
was
that's a process and a
I was
system,
just going to tell you that same thing. Like people come and like, just depending on where you are in business, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm installing this new software. It's the tool is really not the thing. It's what are you putting down? Like you said, if you have a spreadsheet, if you have a Google Doc and you're listing out, what am I doing to complete this task? Step one, step two, step three. Am I saying this at a third grade level? Is someone able to follow these instructions without having to ask me what to do? Then you did establish a certain process, and you just add to that document over time, and you see and delegate out to see what people can bring up and what people need help with, and then edit that document. So it's kind of a working document, especially when you're first starting out, until you get that groove of what actually works in this instance. But yeah, a lot of times people are like, oh, what comes first? I want to establish systems and processes. And it's like, well, do you have a working order of things that you're already doing that's working for you, that you don't have to constantly change because you're still trying to figure it out? Because I mean, even with established businesses, I've seen them trying to still figure it out and keep changing up the way that they're doing processes. And I'm like, well, it comes to a time where you have to have a standard and say, like, this is going to be the standard that I'm going to go until I find something extremely better.
100%. We're all about standardizing those processes at my company. And I never, like, in the beginning when we first started doing this, I thought like, oh, like, creating like, oh, it's almost like a department Bible,
It
of
sounds
like
dry.
business.
It's just
And it's just like, I'm like, is that really gonna like fix
move the
it
needle
or do
forward.
it? And you know what? Like when we hire someone new now, they, for that department, they like read through the step-by-step things they have to
Yes,
do for each one of the different responsibilities or tasks. And it makes it so much easier to onboard people and get
it
people up and
does.
running. And then they feel like, oh wow, like the business is organized, and
Yes.
this made my life easier, and I actually know what the hell I'm doing and why.
And they don't
So
have to keep coming back to you for every little thing. Like, I'm sure, your wife probably has jokes like, he's always asking me where his shoes are.
yeah, yeah,
She should
exactly.
probably like just establish a system like, oh, put your shoes over here. And now you always know where your shoes are.
She would have a lot of jokes. I'll make sure that you guys never speak.
Darn it.
That's great. Well, I guess tell me a little bit about your story. You scaled and built a business, sold it and put you on the path to here. But would love to kind of hear your journey, your growth journey.
Yeah, so I started off actually watching my father grow his business, and he had a service-based business. He grew it. I watched him as he was working a job, and then he ended up getting some employees to work underneath him and do the jobs while he got contracts. So I really saw this growth, and he had these dreams and this plan that he was going to pass this business down to us. However, he randomly had this eye disease, this eye problem, where he went from 20/20 vision to being deemed legally blind within a 4-year time span. Something he
Wow.
was really young, completely healthy, no problems. Doctors still did not know what was going on or why he had multiple eye surgeries and none of it worked. And when you're in a service-based business, you need your eyes. And
Mm.
that's the one thing that he would always say, like, I wish that anything else, like if I broke my leg, if they amputated it, I wish I had that so I could still work. Um,
Wow.
and that really changed my mind. It changed the way that I looked at the world around me. And I said, I need to learn how I can start doing less, because if I get this job and I have to go to the hospital or something like that, or something, the same thing happens to me when I get to be his age, and I'm not able to work, how am I able to still support myself? How can I have a certain passive income stream? And that brought me down the world of investing in business. And so I had my first business, which was an educational consulting business. And literally, I ended up falling into that same trap. I was that one man band, that solo entrepreneur, wearing all of the hats and getting super exhausted, super tired, super overworked, and overwhelmed because I was not delegating properly to other people, helping them, having them to come in. I was controlling everything. I was that chief bottleneck officer that I mentioned before. And that was the same thing I saw my dad doing. He was the chief bottleneck officer, even though he did have employees. He had a great business, but he did not let go enough. He did not release enough of the control over the company in order for that company to show up for him when he's unable to show up for it. And I did the same thing, got overwhelmed, overworked, said, this is not what I set out to do. I wanted to really have that freedom style, lifestyle business, and went to sell the business before I just ran it into the ground. And when I was going to sell the business, I started looking at all the other businesses that were listed on the site that said that the owner was only working 10 hours per week. And I said, what's the common denominator here? How is this business owner working these little bit of hours, 5 hours, 10 hours per week? How can I do that? And I'm that person who always, I'm thinking like, how can I do less? How can I get to that same position that someone else is getting? How can I strive to do a little bit better? And I started seeing that there was this recurrent trend of having systems, having employees, automating, delegating certain things, eliminating certain tasks. And I said, okay, that's it. That is the key. That's the trick. And that's also where I saw was the gap in all of the teachings. I had gone through different types of courses and mentorships, even expensive expensive ones, and no one
Yeah.
necessarily talked about setting up systems and processes so that a business could succeed without you. And that's why I started TasklyGroup.
Wow. Yeah, it's so true because I mean I've done a number of different things over the years, different coaching, consulting, mentors. There was one great mentor that said, "Hey, he also had a great business, and he built that business by processes and systems, and really kind of helped me understand processes and systems, and that completely changed the game in
Yeah.
my business. But it's true when you do a lot of the consulting and stuff, and depending on what it is, but for the most part, no one really goes into like, all right, like kind of bringing it back to basics
Yeah.
with those processes and systems. It's a what's a really wild story. And when did you found Taskly Group?
I founded Test Group about 6 years ago.
Okay, great. Wow, so you've been rocking and rolling, and tell me about like what are like the typical companies that you work with?
So we work with coaches, consultants, and service-based business owners, and they usually have small teams. So they are already having like a virtual assistant or a small employee or something, but they know that they want to do less. These They know that they can make it a little bit better, they can streamline things a little bit better, they want to have a little bit more time so that they can enjoy with their families. Um, and but they know that they have this nice successful business, and there's just this gap in their knowledge base, and they know about systems. Some people have heard about ClickUp. They've heard about Asana, Trello, and they're just like, which one should I do? I need someone to tell me exactly which one I should do. And they don't have the time to really put the systems in place themselves.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
learning curve to really learn a new system, especially when you're starting from the ground up. So you already have the duties of your particular business, and now you're trying to learn all of the features and functions of this system instead of someone just setting it up for you, making it a lot easier, knowing all the functions that are there and what you should have in place for your business. Of course, working with you to see what's the best fit for you, but really to streamline it and get you there a lot faster than on your own.
Makes sense. What do you think like the key mindset shifts, business owners, could make, just, in general, but obviously with working with you and to cut down, inefficiencies and free up time?
So I always say two main things, and I know you probably struggled with this in the beginning as well, which are letting go of control, thinking that
Mm,
you can do it better than anyone else, that no one's going to treat my company the way that I would treat it. And to an extent, yeah, that can be kind of true, but I've also seen that employees, especially high level ones that if you're really honing on and hiring correctly, those employees are teaching you and showing you other things that maybe your limited knowledge and experience hasn't been, because they're specialized in a certain area. And so just having that, releasing that control, realizing that other people have this vast knowledge base that you could really learn and benefit from, and being able to lean on your employees that way. Delegating, that's been the biggest
yeah.
mindset shift that I believe a business owner can make.
It's amazing to me how much, like, because once you get it and that shift happens, and it's like process systems, letting go, like getting like, and I think sometimes it's either, you just got to let go of being a control freak.
Yeah.
Some of it's just stop, like, get rid of your ego. And
Mhm.
I think the reality is like, yeah, no one's going to treat the business like yours because it's yours. Like if you founded it, if you're the only owner, like you can't expect anyone to treat it like you would. That's like completely unfair. And I think there's like an unrealistic ego thing there that you
It
really
is.
got to put yourself in check on. And it took me a while to really get that. I also think it's like a bullshit excuse to be like, oh, no one treats it like me. Oh, and like not want to deal with finding the right person or taking the time, taking
Correct.
a few steps back, slowing down to put the things in place.
And it can be a
So
fear thing. I've also heard the same people say, "Oh, I don't want an employee to hear all of what I do and take my business."
yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean, good. Well, I used to be worried with more stuff like that. Now I'm like, good luck. Like
yeah,
here's everything in a silver platter. Like you got to go and do it. You got to put the work in. You need the capital. You're gonna have to go through the sacrifices. The years of not making any money in reinvestment. So and it's like like go ahead and anyone could do that at any time, right? Like, and what's the difference? Like, to be honest, if you actually don't have your shit together as a business owner and don't have good business, people are going to leave, and it's actually going to be
yeah,
like, I could definitely do it better
yeah.
because they have nothing, put together here. So I actually think by like putting it together and like nailing it, in a way, like, you might get people be like, wow, there's a lot of shit going on here. I don't even want to deal with this stuff,
So the way
So
that we put it together so that some business owners can be at ease of that, because I know that is a really a big concern, is that we put things together by departments. And so not one employee has all of the access to all of the department except for the owner. So it is kind of like
makes
taken out
sense.
into different sections, different areas. And so like an employee might say, "Oh, I'm great at marketing," but they don't know how to run the business and provide the service. And so that's why you have a team for the service portion of it, and then you have your team for the accounting portion. You have your team to do the marketing, and you have a team for the sales. So there are, like you said, there's so many moving parts in getting a business up and running that you really find this groove that no one can really just go in, and even if they have your playbook, to just pop in and have it. But you can also put an extra layer of protection on yourself by splitting it up into just giving them access to what they need to fulfill their particular duties.
Makes sense. And we're big with just kind of what you said too, like finding someone that's going to do it better than you or as good
Yeah.
as you.
Oh, that
It's
has
it you
propelled
know
me so much quicker, faster. I've seen so many people try to hire like these lower end VAs, and I'm just like, man, if you could really see what a high level person can take you. They have so many experiences. They tell you, oh, we've done it this way at a prior company. Oh, let's incorporate that, giving you those strategic moves that you can really make to propel you and to really teach you. So you're hiring this person, they're doing the job for you, and they're teaching you.
100%. Yeah, and I think there's sometimes bringing in that outside perspective, someone who's had other experience in other companies, especially maybe even bigger companies, um, or has been a part of a fast growing company. They'll bring things to the table that you weren't even thinking, which I always find great. And back in the beginning, there was some things that I did in the business that I thought, oh, no one could ever do this, and I have to do
Mhm.
this, and those things now have been passed along to multiple different employees. And it's funny, there's one of those things recently where one of the employees is like, how do we, do this? Or something came up about it. And I actually had to like get a recap from the employee to remind me on how it was done because I forgot. It's been so long, and that was something I thought no one would ever do. So,
And
it,
that's
it
the
really
also
is
benefit of it,
amazing.
because there's so many things that we have going on. We'll forget some of those smaller foundations that worked
Yeah,
from the beginning. And so if
yeah,
you have something to go back to, like I have a whole database of like templates for emails and stuff like that that I can just kind of plug and play. And that's what I do as well for other business owners. Like if you're doing an email over and over again, you could easily pass this off to someone else and they can plug and play it in for you as well. So I definitely forget. My mind is not that sharp when
a
it comes
hundred
to
percent. Yeah,
remembering
yeah,
certain details.
yeah. Especially from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think? Think there's think. What are the things that figure companies do that the smaller companies are not doing? What do you think they know about managing their business better than the smaller companies?
So they know that all of your business processes, all of your departments in the business, like your marketing, your sales, they all need to talk to each other. There needs to be a correct handover process, because a bigger business like yours, one with 1,000 employees, 2,000 employees, they have so many employees that the people who are on the marketing team aren't going to be the same ones closing the deal for the sales team, like the sales teams. And so if you have this type of messaging that you're working on with marketing, it's converting clients, that those messaging points, that information of why the person opted in, why they came to you in the first place, those things need to be handed over to the sales team. So when the sales team is getting on the calls, they are using the same messaging. They're telling the person, the same thing. And the same thing happens as well, the handover process from the sales team to the customer service team. They need to know exactly what it is that the sales team sold this person in, so they can deliver the product exactly as the sales team sold it. So we're not labeled scams, like that's coming around a lot. Someone's getting upset that they didn't get what they were promised. So these are really important things to have this handover process, so that the business works as one complete unit and not just in these different department silos.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's funny, you really like a master juggler, when you own a business, and it's like a never-ending balancing act where you really have to get all these different companies to be in sync, and it really is never perfect because you nail the marketing, then you have to nail the sales, nail the sales and the marketing, the accounting needs to keep up with it. Like all these things are constantly having to be rebalanced and realigned and work in sync. And, I think too, like all the great work that you're doing, I think you have to really think out too, like what the things that I'm doing today, like where do I need to be in 6 and 12 and 18 months, so you can prepare for that. And I see a lot of companies, they just run to go do more sales, but then they don't have the back office in order, and it becomes a whole nother bottleneck. So it's like
Yes.
there's nothing worse too than crushing sales, but then you can't handle the sales, and sales just doesn't go. Just doing more sales doesn't solve all problems.
And that's one of the biggest problems. People come to me as well. They go, I'm trying to juggle marketing, sales and delivering on what I sold people on. So they're like, I have these kind of seasons of fame and famish where I'm making a lot of money. And then I realize, oh, okay, now that I've brought in a bunch of sales, now I need to deliver on those promises that I make. So they do the promises, but now you're the one doing everything. So they were forgetting to go back and continue marketing, because that has to be a ongoing thing if you want consistent sales and continue to do the sales, since that was left over, since they were shift their focus to doing the customer work. So it is that balancing act, trying to do all of those main three things at once, and handle your books and do everything, which is why you start to need the team. You need to delegate, you need to automate, so that okay, I can automate some of these marketing tasks, and I have a team to do that, so that I don't have to worry about that and can just worry about closing the sales and doing the customer service, and then keep inching your way out slowly but surely.
Makes sense. And, just to give someone a sneak peek, like, with working, with you, like, because all this stuff sounds great, but where do you start, and how can a business owner, whether they're going to work with you or not, but how can they, like, how do they, prepare, like, thinking about implementing processes and systems? Like, where do you really, where do you begin?
Yeah, I love that question, actually. We have a 3-step method that we do. It's the 3D method. So define, design, and do. First, what I have everyone do is to really define what are your goals for making this process? Why are we doing this? What is the vision that we have? Because without a vision, we can't really set a plan. We need to see exactly where it is that you're going or you want to go, in order to start to work backwards and reverse engineer some of those steps that are involved. All too often, so many business owners just tell me it's all in their brain. They don't know how to get it all out on paper, but everything can be jumbled up in your brain if you don't have a clear vision of where you would like to go. So we kind of do things in pieces. We start by using one particular area, seeing what is the end goal, what are we trying to define, which process are we trying to put in place so that we can hand it off to someone else, or that we can automate it, find something that we can do to automate it. And then the next step that we do is we will design. So we actually sit there and we map out with you, because that is the main area people get stuck. Like, it's in my head, I don't know how to do any systems or processes. It seems too much. So we literally sit with you on the call and we go, okay, so take me through your customer journey. What is it? The first thing a person sees, what's the next step that they go through? What's the next step? And we literally chart that out for you visually, so that you can see, okay, a person does go through a process each time that someone goes through here. A lot of times I'll hear people tell me that, oh, I do something custom for each person, each client that comes through. But that's not true, because we have these main things that we do each time. We're asking the same questions over and over again. And we are doing a lot of the same steps, even if you're customizing it to each person. And that's really where the difference is. And that's how you can save a lot of time. And so we start showing that person who's afraid that, it's all in my mind. They're afraid that they don't have processes in place. They're afraid that their steps need to be really customized in order for somebody to go ahead and purchase their services or want to work with them. We show them that you can still add those customizations, but we will add in there some standardizations as well. We add a system that the person goes through. Every time someone enters in, are they filling out a contact form? I know you have a really good follow-up system, and that's what a lot of people are missing out on. But that's a system in itself. After someone says that they're interested, but maybe they don't book the call, how are we following up with them to see if they're interested? Are they needing more capital? Are they just not needing capital at this moment? Because someone can be interested in the system, but it might not be the right timing. And that's why you need that process in place to say, okay, these are the things that we're doing each step of the way. And then the last step is to actually do. That's when we are actually implementing the systems into a particular tool. So depending on what it is you need or how you're used to working, we will start to install those into your marketing tool, into your sales tool, into your customer service tool, and adding those automations so that some of those duties are automatically done for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you kind of, I guess, have to look at the whole big picture. Like you're saying, where do you want to go with the business? But what are the things, I guess, too? Like, where are you getting tripped up? Like, what
Yeah.
is constantly coming up that's creating friction, and a challenge in your business, and what are the things that you hate doing?
Yes.
Because that's where,
that's that's a big motivator.
yeah,
How can I
like
get
where,
this off my
start
plate?
with that. Like, what are the things that you love doing? Do more of that. How do you get rid of the things that you hate doing? And usually, things that you hate doing are the things that you're not good at, right? So,
Exactly.
you want to you want to get those off your plate fast as the owner, entrepreneur, CEO.
And I also like to focus on just my strengths and not trying to get my weaknesses to build up to my strengths by trying to do everything. So even though, you might hate doing something, it's like you have a some kind of process, rough process in place. It might not be the most time use wise use of your time, but you have something you can pass off to somebody else and then they can go ahead and tell you, okay, this is a little bit a better way of doing it.
What do you think? What do you think business owners are the worst with, and the biggest challenge, with systemization, in their
Mm.
biz?
Depending on where the business owner is, because there are different tiers depending on where you are in business. So that first tier, the first plateau business owners hit is letting go. And some business owners never really are able to let go completely,
I know
but
it's crazy.
it's that fear, that mindset issue of letting go, because they still want to have their hands in all the pots. I've worked with some CEOs who are still going in and wanting to be involved in all the meetings, and to me that tells me like you're not trusting your team, you're not giving clear directions, you don't have the systems in place so that you can be at ease and you can step away and allow your team to do what they need to do. But that's a really big one. Even like I said, the CEO had a seven-figure business and they were still wanting to be involved in all of the meetings. Now, is that a good use of your time? How are you going to continue to grow and scale if you are still having to be involved in all of the meetings? That is one of the biggest things, and trying to show someone else that there's some flexibility, but they need to still follow this particular standard. So with the seven-figure CEO, I just believe that they wanted to keep trying different stuff as well. So not wanting to standardize, but then also wanting to have the control to be in there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. No, I definitely can see that, and we're big with we run on EOS, from the book Traction,
Yeah, I love
and
that book.
yeah, we're super big fans of it. We use an EOS implementer, and we're one, we have a systemized meeting where I get to check in once a
Yes.
week, know what's going on, so I can stay out of all the other meetings.
In your
And
quarterly intensives, we did the
yep,
same thing with business owners, showing them about those to do a 90-day action plan. So they are, because that's another issue of having too many ideas and trying to figure out which one to do. And
yeah,
so for, a lot of business owners, they're like, oh, let's go this direction, let's go that direction, let's go here. And the
yeah.
employees are like so confused. So it's like, which project do you want us to complete fully if you're trying to pull us in all these different directions?
Yeah, 100%. I call them squirrels, and you got
Yeah.
to stay away from the
Tiny
too many
object.
squirrels. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. Yeah, we joke about that on the team, and having those quarterly rocks have been
Yeah.
really great, and but you got to do the work. Like, I think all this stuff that we're talking about is great, but if you're not willing to like commit and do the work and put the time into it, and scaling through every level of growth,
Mhm.
all every time that we broke out of wherever we were, it's challenging. That's not easy, but you have to commit to it. You've got to do the hard work, and all these things that we're talking about today, they're all great, but only if you do them and commit to them and stick to it. I see that with a lot of customers. We work with helping business owners access capital, and
Yeah.
and I see all the different challenges, and they're all pretty similar. It's just at every level of business, it usually comes a bit down to the same, one of the five, areas: process, systems, people,
Mhm.
marketing, accounting, et cetera. So, um, this is really, really good stuff. Were you always an entrepreneur? Like, how long yet, when did you start, your first company? Just kind of curious on that.
Yeah, so literally when I was right out of college, I did work in the workforce as well, but I always knew that it wasn't going to be my forever career. And so when I got started off, I still needed seed money to fund my entrepreneur venture. And so I was working full time and I was trying to do entrepreneurship on the side until I started growing that first business to the area where I was able to get out of the job that I had full time and enter into entrepreneurship full time. So I didn't just jump out with no parachute and just do the thing. I did it very strategically, and that helped me to be able to, because I had bought a house when I had just graduated as well, and it was just like I didn't want to ever put myself in a certain position that I didn't want to be in, a position
Yeah.
where I felt uncomfortable and wasn't able to like make rent or struggle. And I hear so many other people, they're like down to their last dollar, and I'm like, that was never me. I would just but I did. I put in that grunt work in the very beginning, and I worked in corporate and worked my business, and I was taking calls on lunch hours and doing things on the weekends until I grew it to that level where it's just like, okay, now I can transition out and I can go ahead and do the business full time.
Good stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely I jumped in and it was wild, but it was just a different situation, but a wild time. And
Now I
I
want to
you
hear
know
about this. What's up
yeah.
with this wild time? So what'd you do to jump in?
Well, I left one bit, my job to start the business, but then we went right into the
Mm.
0809 recession, and the whole
Oh
world
wow.
collapsed. So I had to fight through that, and I was literally down to like my last dollars getting the company going, and paying for my house
Yeah.
and all that fun stuff at once. So it was a
That was
wild time.
tough. Because
I'm
when
glad.
times are up and people are like, yeah, it's amazing. And, everyone's making a lot of money in business and housing prices are up. And then soon as there was a downturn, that's when you really see who can really withstand the rain.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think we're in the middle of that right now. We're going through this real transition.
And you
It's
will
been a,
know
it's
as
been a
well, especially with providing loans to people, you
Yeah,
see the trends, you see the beginning indicators.
100%. Yeah, and I think we've kind of been in it now that all the free money's kind of gone, and there are some people that have stayed, focused, some owners that have stayed focused through this, who are growing and doing really well, and there's some that have used COVID as an excuse and
Mm.
and really kind of got back to business way too late, and kind of stayed stagnant a little bit too long, and now they're really having to catch up for lost time. So there's like really two different types of business owners right now. One that's has been focused the whole time, and then one that's kind of fallen behind. So interesting time, and the next 12 and 24 months will be very telling and very interesting. And besides that, there's a lot going on in the world. So it's a wild time to be in business for sure. But in all these times, there's always opportunity. You just have to
Yes.
sometimes, readjust or look a little bit harder.
I 100% agree with that. And I thank myself as well for all of the books that I read before I started getting into business, because I was reading a lot about just that same idea, which was there's always going to be opportunity in everything, in an up market or a down market. And so it had me to just reframe to always look for opportunities anywhere I see them. And even reading that, when I stumbled and came out there, still seeing it and still just looking for opportunities in the upturn, then it was still in the back of my mind. But living through it, I was just like, okay, I understand now exactly what these books were saying and what they meant by finding those opportunities in both up times and down times.
100%. It's all about how you perform in the downtimes. It's easy to be a winner in the uptimes. Everyone's winning, so the tide kind of lifts you. But it's all about really what you do when times aren't good. And I think that's really what makes you stronger business, a stronger entrepreneur. You got to go through those bad times. You need that nice reality check, um, and I've used that to as a motivator. Some people, it pulverizes them, but there's always amazing opportunities that come out of out of bad times, as long as you focus on them, and that's important. So I think everyone listening, the entrepreneurs out there, even as we go through this transition right now, there is amazing opportunities out there. And I think in the bad times, a lot of people kind of let their hands off the wheel, throw the towel in. Um, and I think there's a lot of areas that pick up that slack. And I think that we're in a culture now where a lot of people there's not there's not as many hard workers today as there were, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So if you're willing to like roll your sleeves up and work hard right now at any age, um, I think just with that alone, you can really, kick some ass, because so many people don't want to. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're all trying to work smarter now and not harder, and be behind
Yeah.
our
And
computers instead of some of the grunt work that started off. Like I started off doing events, going to
yeah.
the conferences and events. So I had that background and knowledge of like, having to go out and network instead of just being behind the computer as well. But also learned about Facebook ads too with that first business that I started.
Yeah, I think, listen, you got to constantly work smarter, but you can't be afraid to work hard, and put the grind in, and, if you're just getting started in business, like the holidays and weekends, like just cross those off your calendar. It doesn't matter. Like it's not, I was talking to an entrepreneur that's just getting started, and they're like, well, I've got the, I don't want to do this because I've got vacation time and I've got this coming up and this travel. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you starting a business, or do you want a job that has enough vacation time? Like what, like, it's not reality in the beginning. You can get to that, but not when you're getting started.
Well, I
So.
think with the whole idea of the lifestyle business that we have been, especially when I first got into business, that was what was really portrayed. This
Yeah,
lifestyle
like,
business. Sit
yeah,
on the beach, drink pina coladas while you
and
run
just
your business, and get all
it's,
these fortunes. And
yeah,
sometimes you're sold that dream, which is
it's
not how it is, especially
no,
not in the
it's
very
bullshit.
beginning.
I can't stand it, because it gives, it gives people this like false, it's just like this false, it's a false story, and then people like make this leap and they think, oh, now I'm my own boss, and it's just all the
Yeah.
chips are going to fall into place, and like, you're going to work the hardest you ever have in your life to get to the pina colada on the beach stage. Well, it's a wild time, and but like I said, there's with all these times, there's massive opportunity, and and I think regardless of an up market or a down market, there's never a better time to pause and put processes and systems in place. And I'd actually argue in this transition time right now, this is probably the best time to get those processes and systems in place, because when things take off and the market comes raging back, which it will, you can kind of be ready for it. So
And what
if
I've
you're
also seen with that is just that whenever somebody is saying that it's a downtime, someone else is having an uptime. So
exactly right, yes,
so it's like some people have never, even though some people have experienced the recession, there's some people who didn't miss a beat. And so we still work with those particular business owners who are like, oh, my business is thriving since having, this influx of cash, since the recession. There are a lot of people like, just for an example, back in 2008, 2009, the housing market crashed. There were business owners for landscaping that were booming, businesses that did like the clean outs, especially with all the foreclosures,
yep,
going around taking pictures of the property, surveyors. So those things are still, it's not something that impacts everyone all at the same time as the news would kind of like have you to try to believe.
100%. And you just got to be willing to shift, and yeah, and if you're in a business that was effective, you just got to be able to think outside the box, be creative, and shift and move.
Yes, even
Yeah,
some of the clients, they'll say like, "Oh, my business is cyclical," and I kind of will challenge or ask like, "Okay, well, what else can you do during that down season in your business? Like, I know you have a pool company, but and that's for a summer-based business, but can you also add a snow removal company?" And so those are certain things like, if you are in the business, you have a certain business, it's going to be downtimes, you can either plan for it or you can add on an additional business that will run in that off season area. Or like even photographers, they tell me like, oh, we have down seasons during this time. And it's just like, well, maybe for weddings, but then you also have, you can do family portrait times in the fall. And, there are other times you can do corporate contracts. And during these other times, that's very slow for you. So it is, just depends on where you are in your business and what you're willing to, like you said, pivot to.
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's just kind of where the creativity thinking outside the box and remove the ego and don't be afraid to try some things and make some changes.
Or at least just plan. If you know it's
Yeah,
going to be downtime, make that the plan
plan
for your
ahead.
summer vacation.
The planning ahead is really the biggest thing. You gotta plan ahead. You got to think ahead, and that's what's helped me be successful in business is constantly looking ahead. Awesome. Well, Shanice, I appreciate you being on the show today. I ask everyone on the show, all the guests, what's one growth tip that you would leave to folks watching the Grow Show today?
Yes, well, all of the folks watching the Grow Show today, I wanted to thank everyone with a free gift. So they can go to tasklygroup.com/grow and they will be able to see how my 6 and 7 figure clients are able to scale their businesses while doing less. But for one tip that they can do, it's really to just take one day, sit down and ask yourself, go through your entire customer journey. What is it that I do when to get a customer in the front door? And what is the last thing that I do before they leave?
I
And
love that.
add
I
everything in.
love that. I love that. And so many people don't do that. And we're big fans of going through that constantly here. It's so important. So many things get missed that you don't even realize. So really, really great advice. Love what you're doing for entrepreneurs out there to help them grow and be better so they can scale and also actually have some time to enjoy. So really great stuff. If you're watching today, please make sure to check out Shanice's company. And Shanice, how can everyone follow you and obviously find you?
They can follow me on Instagram at @TasklyGroup_, and they can go to the website tasklygroup.com/grow.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you again, Shanice, and make
Thank
sure that you
you.
keep growing.